The thumbnail and title are not clickbait because in this fifth part of the series, I'm moving to Asia.
We're finally going to visit the new home of my beloved's parents. It's located in the town of Bemban in the state of Melaka.
It's about an hour-and-a-half drive from the center of Kuala Lumpur.
You'll see how cheap, at least by European standards, you can get 331 square meters of new construction with a garden here.
And if you want something even cheaper, we'll also visit Auntie's house. This one has 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and it's smaller, which also makes it much cheaper. But this episode isn't just about real estate.
You'll witness how delicious Roti Canai is made, and you'll also see my very first attempt at trying durian, which is known as the smelliest fruit in the world.
Even the flies are gathering. Oh, it's going to be hard to swallow, so stay with me, because it's really worth it. We grabbed the keys, our parents, and we're heading to the new house.
We're driving under the residence barrier, the camera scans us and lets us in.
The entire neighborhood is new, but residents have already moved into the completed houses.
My parents wanted to be in the quietest part, away from the entrance and the main street, where in the mornings, young working parents with children will be rushing by.
We're going near the end, close to the palm trees. This driveway is massive, but the camera lens fails to capture its size.
But a photo taken with a phone shows it better. 4 cars can fit here.
The house has an area of 331 square meters, and because of the larger garden, the decision was made to choose a corner house.
It cost exactly 658,000 Malaysian ringgit.
I'll show you. I'll write at the bottom exactly how much that is. This is the condition in which you receive a purchased property in Malaysia.
The walls are painted white, the windows are in place, and most importantly, the floors are also finished. Downstairs, on the stairs, and upstairs. Of course, it's not like they just threw in whatever they had.
The developer contacted my parents about this, and they got to choose the color, pattern, size of the tiles, and the level of gloss. As you can see, it's done quite well and thoroughly, with no flaws even in the storage under the stairs. Lights, chandeliers, ceiling fans, and air conditioning units are not installed because it depends on your taste and what you want.
But the Siemens switches and circuit breakers are already here. As for the kitchen, my parents didn't want anything here.
They're considering whether to put it outside because that's very typical in this part of the world.
In Europe, an outdoor kitchen only makes sense seasonally, if at all.
Here, however, even in the coldest time of year, in the middle of the night, the temperature almost never drops below 20 degrees Celsius.
So a simple roof is enough to keep the rain out of the pots, and you can cook outdoors all year round, whether it's day or night.
Now, that way you don't create unnecessary smells in the house.
The photos you see I found online, but 3 years ago when we were in a national park in Malaysia, we stayed in a typical Malaysian house like that.
The views there and the air were absolutely amazing, and I think this is the only photo where I have a kitchen like that.
Breakfast, a treat, and coffee in such conditions is just a dream.
It's a pity I didn't record a vlog from this trip, because it would have been fantastic.
We walked through the jungle, saw black scorpions, and had leeches on our calves.
We're planning to go there again, so if you want to see more of my vlogs, like and share the video.
Unfortunately, I have to admit that the previous episode didn't meet my minimum expectations in terms of views, but if this episode does better, I can make more travel videos like this. So it's up to you, your comments, views, and likes, whether something similar will appear on the channel in the future.
If you want, you can also help me buy a special vlogging camera with a gimbal. Something like that would significantly improve the quality of this kind of travel content.
You can do it directly through YouTube, but Google takes a really big percentage there. The most effective way is Patronite, and I'll leave a link in the description. But like I said and want to emphasize, that's only if you want to contribute something yourself.
Returning to the house, the bathrooms are now usable. Here is the current state of the garden.
My parents are still considering whether to build a kitchen on part of it, or if they'll give up on that idea.
After we returned to Ireland, they visited the new house a few more times.
Both to chat with the neighbors and to look around to see how others finished their homes.
Thanks to this, it's easier for them to decide what they want for themselves and which finishing crew to choose.
Their stoic calm and complete lack of hurry are actually surprising.
Even though the house was finished a few months ago, they still travel and absolutely don't feel any pressure to move in right away. Let's check the upstairs. There's 1 bedroom downstairs and 3 more upstairs.
This room on the right is the strangest one. The windows are at the top.
The bedroom right next to it is spacious and already has a normal ceiling and regular windows. The view is quite pleasant.
You see how empty it is here. Another bathroom is located between these two bedrooms upstairs, and we also have a sort of open space here.
You could make an office here, or maybe a bit of a living room with a television, a projector, or even a gaming space.
The only thing is that the sound would carry downstairs, but it's an option. And here we have the entrance to the master bedroom.
It's very spacious here, and the view from the window is good too. As befits a master bedroom, there's a separate third bathroom here. What I don't like here are the aluminum windows.
Why did they use only a single pane of glass here?
In terms of thermal insulation, they're worse than plastic windows with double glazing. Of course, it's not freezing outside, but the air conditioning is running inside.
If the windows had better insulation, the cool air wouldn't escape so quickly.
At least that's what I would think, just using common sense.
However, after a bit of research, I found out that aluminum is more resistant to moisture and mold than plastic, which is crucial in such a humid climate.
Additionally, aluminum windows are also much cheaper, and electricity in Malaysia is so inexpensive that such an investment is completely unprofitable.
Alright, it kind of makes sense, but how much does energy actually cost here? Take a look at this table.
For convenience, the prices have been converted to Polish zloty. In Ireland, 1 kilowatt hour costs about 1.5 zloty.
In Poland, it's from 94 groszy to 1 zloty and 18 groszy.
Although forecasts indicate that prices in Poland may soon equal Irish rates. And what does it look like in Malaysia?
19 groszy for the first 200 kilowatt hours. It's almost a symbolic rate. Then in the range of 201 to 300 kilowatt hours, the price rises to 29 groszy, and with higher usage, meaning above 300 kilowatt hours, it reaches 45 groszy per kilowatt hour. So energy is cheap, but it's not free. That's why special thermal films are used on the windows here, which reflect some of the hot sun rays, thus reducing the heating of the interior.
Some films promise 30% lower air conditioning costs, others even more, but that depends on the degree of light reflection.
But we're going to continue our reconnaissance around the neighborhood. 2 security guards in the booth watch the entrance and take care of visitors.
A shopping and service arcade was built along with the new neighborhood. Not much is happening yet, as there are only a handful of residents so far.
However, there are really a lot of these premises here. Behind them is a recreational area.
The area has a fenced basketball court and soccer field, along with a children's playground featuring slides, rockets, and tunnels.
From the end of the recreational area, you can see that the shopping arcade was probably built with a bit too much grandeur.
At the end, there is an artificial long lake. It's a place for walks or for jogging around.
Auntie also bought herself a house here, I think even on the same street, because we've been driving around a bit and I got a little lost. But let's go take a look. It's a little bit smaller, it's the house behind me, and we're going to see what it looks like inside.
Well, it's definitely elegant. I can see the driveway is much smaller, but let's see what the inside looks like. We need to say hello.
It's smaller, but I think 3 cars could still fit here. Now let's go inside.
Here will be the kitchen, here will be something, a cabinet, a cupboard.
The living room is also smaller. Here is 1 bedroom. It's a bit smaller too. The entire house is smaller. In this second one, I've roughly marked the bed's location.
Here's a little office. Here I see a tiny bathroom. Oh, it's a shared bathroom.
So as you can see, I can walk into 1 room.
I can walk into the second room. I'm not a fan or supporter of having a shared bathroom with 2 doors, but take a look at how it looks there. It's just a passage between 2 guest bedrooms. Of course, you can lock this bathroom from both sides. Here you have a small living room, or you could turn it into a study or something else.
And here is the master bedroom.
That's how it looks. It's much smaller than the other one, than the parents' one here.
There will be a crib.
I see something interesting there, like some grates. Let's check out those grates. And another little bathroom.
I'll switch over now. The bathroom is practically identical.
Alright, and what you see here is that you can open the little window.
However, this whole structure is for the air conditioning unit, meaning the external cooling unit.
I'm not sure if I really like it, because if this is the main bedroom, the external air conditioning unit always creates some resonance and vibrations.
Of course, it's placed on these rubber-like cork pads, which obviously reduce a lot of those vibrations, but it still generates some noise, some sound.
So, is this really such a super clever solution? I would argue with that.
I would definitely prefer to install the external units somewhere else in the house.
Let it be in the bathroom, let it buzz there, and not right next to your ear. Because look, if you put the bed here, then just 2 meters away is the external air conditioning unit.
You can also see that even though this is basically a corner, there's a lot less of this little garden.
Well, of course, you can plant something there again.
Some chili, just like we have in the house, or other things. Oh, the gate.
Huh. Okay, I got it. I don't know if it wouldn't have pulled it off the hinges a little, and that's what the whole neighborhood looks like.
There you have it. That's what the house looks like from the outside with those external units. Oh, okay, the gate is attacking me again. And another thing that caught my attention, look, there are drains here.
There are 5 in total. 1 there, 1 here, and 3 more.
And normally if there's just too much water in the garden, it will flow out nicely through here.
Because why should it pour all over the place, right?
The main water valve with the meter is right in front of the gate. So how much would it be for a house like this?
Well, 520,000 ringgit, which is about 450,000 zlotys.
But it also depends on the exact location in the neighborhood. Here you can see the same house.
Also, a corner one, also with a small garden, costing only 458,000 ringgit.
Sure, you could say it's quite far from the city center. An hour and a half drive by car, and that's why it's cheaper.
Yes, well, I agree with that because it will be more expensive closer to Kuala Lumpur, but I still think it's very, very cheap, at least compared to European countries.
And also, how cheap the fuel is here. What could you buy for the same amount of money in Ireland?
Well, maybe a garage or a basement. For something that can legally be called a house, you have to pay not 94,000, but 135,000 euros. So much more, and that's for such an abomination that should just be torn down anyway.
You think the high price is due to the central Dublin location? Not quite, as this house for sale is far from almost everything. This awful wreck is about the same distance from Dublin as my parents' house, and of course people earn more in Ireland.
It's just a pity that it's only on paper, because after paying for expensive energy, fuel, groceries, and oh, horror, rent, in reality, many families living on the Emerald Isle are left with less savings than they would have in Malaysia.
It's a crazy situation, isn't it? A house half the size of a Dublin home, located about 30 minutes away, costs around 700,000 in Ireland.
I don't know exactly how much an 843 square meter bungalow in my parents' neighborhood costs, but I wouldn't be surprised if such a house with 6 huge bedrooms and 5 bathrooms cost less than a house 5 times smaller in Ireland.
So I guess you already understand why I'm surprised by the standard and cost of living in Malaysia compared to the salaries.
We're told that Europe is the best, and that everywhere else people live in mud and clay huts.
If you ever get the chance, it's really worth taking a trip to these rapidly developing countries in Southeast Asia. But that's all from my thoughts for now.
Now the whole family has come to see my parents' house, so we've come back to the same place again.
It's 29 degrees. Feels like 34, but I don't want to tell anyone.
As they say, in this kind of weather, sweat just pours down your boobs, so to speak.
So I'm melting, but oh well, let's go again.
It's cooler outside. Those 34 degrees feel better than inside. But let's go take another look. One more time.
Inside, they're chatting in Mandarin, so I'm going for a walk. Well, the house is behind me, but what caught my attention is right here, just a bit next to it, because my parents chose a house that's not right at the entrance, but a bit further in, so it's quieter. Almost right at the very end, almost, just 1 street further. Behind me, well, now in front of me, there are palm trees, and that's where palm oil comes from. These palms have some red fruits growing on them, and the oil is extracted from them. I'll just walk over there. Of course I can't go in, but I'll get closer and take a look. It's really nice and quiet here. Not many people have moved in yet. Sorry, it's just a bit hard to catch my breath sometimes. It's humid, and of course it's warm. Now the sun has started shining. Not bad at all. It's nice to have a view like this. Just look. Let's say from the bedroom straight onto those palm trees. It's really super quiet.
I'm going back to them. It's absolutely scorching in the sun.
It's around 4 o'clock, I think, maybe 4:15. It's still 29 degrees. Feels like 34. It doesn't really change much, whether it's day or night. It's pretty much the same.
You might be wondering if this kind of weather is bearable. Well, it depends. If you have a few extra kilos, it's a bit harder to handle.
Well, I could stand to lose about 5 kilos, then it would be easier, but, you know, if you try to run in this kind of weather, you could go crazy. For slow walking, it's warm, but at least we're not freezing like we did in Ireland. We were so tired of that. We're totally done with the cold over there.
So something like this would be relatively bearable, but I have to tell you one thing. The last time we were here, we stayed for a month and I tried to work or do anything, and without air conditioning, it's tough. It's hard to focus, hard to gather your thoughts because everything just melts.
You know, in Poland, you also have heat waves, so you know how it gets.
And in Spain, people have a siesta. They don't work during the hottest hours. They go take a nap because you just don't have the energy to overheat in such temperatures.
Oh, it's already loud.
Uncles and aunts.
Everyone's chatting in Mandarin.
And with the translator, maybe sometimes, well, I'm not eavesdropping, but just to keep up with the conversation, because it's obviously more comfortable for them to talk in their own language than in English. Unless they keep interrupting the conversation, we chime in, okay.
After looking at houses, we went to my uncle and aunt's place. We sat there, ate some curry dumplings, and had a very interesting cake made from pandan. Then we came back, took a shower, and we have just about an hour, a moment to rest before going out again. And we're going out for another family dinner.
And you can probably notice that since we've been here, we haven't really eaten at home, neither breakfast nor dinner, because we're always going out, there's always something going on.
Here, a lot of emphasis is placed on spending time with family.
And sometimes I feel like it's been a bit forgotten in Poland.
Maybe not everywhere, maybe not in every family, of course, but that's the impression here, that it's always about family, always about friends.
It's an intriguing lifestyle, particularly with retired parents, which is advantageous.
But you might notice that there was partly this impression, at least in Poland, we had this impression that everywhere else it's poor, that it's poor in the East, it's poor in Asia. But it turns out that here, with just normal salaries, you can live, you can eat out every day. I'm not saying everyone, of course, but that's the impression you get, because you can see the locals who are really always socializing, going out somewhere, spending time with friends, and somehow it doesn't seem to affect their finances that much. So life here seems different. I don't want to say it's better, I don't want to say it's simpler. Maybe it is. Maybe I feel that way myself to some extent. But as you can see, there's always something going on.
I'd like to sit down. I have my laptop here. I don't know if you can see it. Maybe you can, maybe you can't.
There's a laptop, there's another new gadget that I'll be reviewing. But I don't have time to sit down and do it, even though I'd like to. There's always something going on, and of course when we get back home, I'll be able to calmly work on all of this. Oh, here you can actually see what happened after today's bloodletting. Here nothing yet, but over there, it's a real disaster, and the next session is in 2 days. My shoulder needs to rest. Did it help me? I don't know yet, we'll see. So, I'm not taking the camera to this whole family gathering.
There will be an uncle who spent about 25 years in Seattle.
He's really nice, I like talking to him.
So we'll talk and see. Maybe I'll turn on the camera tomorrow.
Good morning, everyone. It's about 11 anti-meridium on Saturday.
So it's the best time to finally stop working, because I've worked a bit since the morning, and we're going out for breakfast.
After breakfast, the plan is to go to the furniture fair. You could call it a market, but it's more like a fair.
I see they're cleaning up the leaves over there in the background.
So we'll see what tasty food we can get today. And we'll spend part of the day under a roof.
And later, we're also going to visit...
Later, my dears, we're also going to visit my aunt, who has a farm with fruits called durians, so we'll talk a bit about durians.
Today I feel like having Roti Canai, so we'll eat at this tiny place. It's hard to call it a restaurant because in our minds a restaurant looks a bit different.
Here we have an open area next to the restaurant, and it's very affordable. So I'll show you what the food looks like and tell you a bit about where Roti Canai comes from.
There's a recommended place here, although it's still closed.
For nasi goreng, which is a fairly simple rice dish, you'll pay about 5, 6, or even 7 zlotys here for the chicken version.
With prices like these, it's easy to understand why eating out is so popular in Malaysia.
But we came here for Roti Canai, and to our surprise, we ran into our cousins having breakfast there.
I asked the chef for permission to record the process of making the famous and much-loved Roti Canai here.
He eagerly agreed to share his expertise. This is one of Malaysia's most iconic dishes.
A flatbread that has gained popularity thanks to its crispy crust and soft interior.
Its roots go back to South Indian cuisine, and it came to Malaysia thanks to immigrants from India.
The name roti means bread in Hindi, while Canai may come from the city of Chennai in India.
Roti Canai dough is made with flour, water, salt, and oil.
A key step is stretching the dough into a very thin sheet, which is then folded into layers and fried on a hot griddle.
Notice that it is not served in the flat form of a pancake, but it has to be properly crushed.
The Roti Canai itself costs 150, but I got mine with egg and onion, so that's 350.
We also ordered, it just arrived, another one with just egg. That's 3 ringgit each.
Actually, we also got another plain one, so without anything for my brother.
So that's another ringgit 50. And here you have the sauces, right? We have sambal, curry, and dal.
And we spread it on the flatbread, and that's a simple breakfast.
And then the drinks, 2 ringgit each.
Well, here's an interesting fact, because we're eating, but I asked about those houses, why they're painted so nicely. That one in blue.
But my beloved says that these are just houses provided for police officers and, of course, their families.
Only police officers basically live there. Maybe that's why they're white and blue. 3 people are full, and for the 4th, we'll take some food home.
Altogether, we paid 23 ringgit for everything, which is maybe a bit less than 20 zlotys, around that amount.
So, we're getting into the car and heading to Auntie's durian farm. As you can see, the access road is, well, considering the fact that it goes through the tropical forest, I think it's actually pretty decent.
Fortunately, we only need to drive on it briefly as the entrance gate is already visible.
The girls are calling Auntie so she can open the gate.
Seeing a sign like that, I thought it's probably not worth coming here without announcing yourself first.
We came to Auntie's durian farm. I'll show you in a moment what these trees look like, maybe also what the fruits themselves look like, and we'll talk about the taste a bit later. As you can see, there's quite a bit of land behind us.
I also see some palm trees over there. What are these palms?
Palm oil, palm tree. So also palms for palm oil, something like that.
But that's no longer Auntie's. There's a whole hill there behind the hill, and we'll be heading in that direction. Here you can see papaya growing, but again, they're protected with a bag. Because the main reason for the bag, just like I mentioned before, is that if the fruit ripens and wants to fall, instead of hitting the ground, it just falls into the bag to keep it safe.
Later, we eat the fruit and prefer them to be intact.
And on the other hand, it also protects a bit against insects, so they don't get in.
Here you can also see that someone cleverly came up with the idea to do it with tires as well.
I suppose that in case the whole bag hits the ground, it would be a bit softer.
Here you can see a dog, happy, well-fed, has water, but it looks a bit strange from above because it's shaved. They shave the dogs so they have less hair in such heat, of course.
And you see, he could sit under the air conditioner or in the shade, but he prefers to walk around. I guess he's just used to it.
This is a durian tree, but there aren't any fruits yet because it's not the season right now.
But you can see as much as you can because it's pretty sunny today. It was supposed to rain, but it's not raining. But all these trees here are also durian trees. It looks really nice, I would say.
For me, at first glance, I wouldn't say this is a fruit tree. Especially since it grows so big, because you have to admit it grows really big. And here is another papaya. Look at the fruits.
It's hard to catch the brightness, but
oh, you see how many are growing here.
Why aren't these protected? I don't know.
Honestly, I have no idea, but let's keep exploring.
And this here is jambu, which is guava. You probably know something like guava. It's crazy. We've only been here for a moment, and the mosquitoes are already starting to bite us pretty intensely.
We're going inside to the air-conditioned house. Or actually, in front of the house. They weren't biting as much as they are here.
I dressed in black because it was supposed to rain today.
As you can see, it's not really raining. Over there, Uncle and Aunt are spraying something against some kind of pests, so we're still going to check on the mango.
Bushes are just bushes.
It's nice to do some sightseeing, but the heat and mosquitoes are so bothersome that we won't venture any deeper.
We sat outside and inside the house, then moved on. We're now heading to the furniture fair.
Earlier I forgot the word and what it means, that is, this fair in this context here.
In Polish, it would be a market, a fair, or a bazaar. So now you know where we're going.
Maybe not so much a fair, but simply a home appliance market.
Our parents' house is already finished, and ours is still under construction, so we just stopped by out of curiosity to see what they have here.
The girls have already started checking out the sinks.
So we're just looking around. Interesting, apparently you put some fruit here or something. The price?
Damn, 7,000 and 3,000. It's not cheap, but if you buy one for several decades, then maybe it's worth its price.
This one is for washing cups. As you can see, it's for a quick rinse.
And here, as you can see, the water is running. I thought it only had 2 functions, but actually the first and second functions. The next one has a removable, washable component. It even has a 4th function, which is awesome. This kind of sink is available in different widths.
Interesting. I'm not exactly a huge fan of sinks, but you have to admit that something like this can really make life more pleasant, simpler, and easier.
Here you have these outlets that you can move.
I don't know, it's kind of silly in my opinion, but the girls say they like something like this, that if you have a rice cooker, you can just move it over. There is some sense to it, and if you already have your kitchen set up and know where everything is, then this may not be necessary. But it's another interesting thing.
Yesterday at Auntie's, we saw exactly the same kind of door. It opens from the other side, and you basically have an open window with a passage, so you have access to fresh air all the time.
For the front door to a house, well, not really for an apartment, but for something like this, absolutely. It's a really interesting idea.
We also have these nice little tables, all kinds of different ones. Interesting designs in general, right?
Here, in Chinese culture, the table should always be round. Or at least it should be whenever possible. And here, the center also rotates. So we put the food in the middle and everyone sitting can turn it and pick what they want. Because we always share food. No one has their own plate, you have to share. Here, the lady is showing that this marble is real marble, and she poured something on it. It's smoking at me! You can put it out. Yeah.
Unlike this one, it can move.
And you see, there probably won't be a trace, right?
Okay.
A plastic bag like this, well, it's an interesting topping for the table because it's kind of cheap, so of course it will leave a mark. As you can see here, for example, nothing stays on this one, not even any marks. Here, however, we see door locks combined with a little handle, which is actually quite interesting.
And even a safe.
If someone has something to keep in there, right? For example, what? SSD drives?
It even has a built-in peephole on the other side. Oh, I just covered it.
In some places, it's really like a fair, and we're slowly getting tired of it.
I want to leave, but we might still find something interesting.
However, there was nothing interesting here anymore. Everything was the same, so we left.
We're heading back home, but we stopped by the store for something. And look, I wanted to tell you earlier that when it comes to milk, it's insanely expensive here.
I really enjoy coffee with milk, and as you can see, even for just one of these 2-liter bottles, it's $16.60, which is probably around 13 zlotys. It absolutely costs a fortune, and that's because you won't really find cows here in 40-degree or 30-degree heat.
After driving thousands of kilometers across Malaysia, I was quite certain that there are no cows in the country.
I definitely haven't seen any, and honestly, would that be so surprising? After all, they have a completely different climate here.
Just like we don't have crocodiles or pythons, why would there have to be cows here? As it turns out, there are cows here, although if you're flying the route, you'll probably never see any.
Mainly because in Malaysia, there aren't large open pastures like in Europe.
Much of Malaysia is covered with the dense tropical forests. These areas are difficult to turn into pastures, and even if you do, the productivity of cows in the hot and humid climate is really low. Cows, just like people, have trouble releasing heat when the ambient temperature is too high, and the humidity makes it hard for sweat to evaporate.
Because of this, cows eat less, which in turn drastically reduces their milk production.
They avoid walks, which doesn't help build their muscles.
So not only milk production, but also beef production is much weaker here. European dairy breeds can't handle it here at all.
Local Malaysian breeds or those originating from India do a bit better, but it's still nothing impressive.
That's why, if anything, they graze somewhere under the shade of dense palm trees and mostly in the evenings. In barns, sprinklers, fans, and other, let's call them, comfort measures for cows are used, which makes local farming sometimes more expensive than importing.
3-in-1 coffee is popular here. When visiting family, I always got that kind from a packet. Very few families here have milk in the fridge.
We came back home, we're already preparing a coconut, but here, look at this.
I'm asking my mom if this is by any chance, or if it's not by any chance, just cabbage, right?
I'll tell you what it's called as soon as I unlock my phone, if I manage to unlock it with my wet finger.
The name of this looks like this, and it's a snow fungus also known as king oyster mushroom, an edible mushroom species because of its rich nutritional value and so on and so on.
In Poland, we enjoy oyster mushrooms. Here, this oyster mushroom looks like this.
And here it's still dry because you need to soak it so it gets this kind of texture.
To me, it resembles cabbage. It's embarrassing to admit, but I had to travel halfway around the world to try something you can get at your local market.
That's right, because it turns out that these oyster mushrooms, which actually look more like porcini mushrooms, can even be found at Kaufland.
We literally walked into the house 5 minutes ago. I started drinking this coconut, and Dad took out a durian, and I asked if we had a whole one at home to open.
He refused because they didn't buy a whole one as it's enormous.
So we're going to a place where we can show you how to open this specific fruit.
We drove a little way from home to a place that processes these fruits. These durians are defective. Nobody wants them.
But over there are some bigger ones.
So much bigger.
Do you see the thorns? It really smells intense.
I would even say that calling it a smell is a bit too elegant here.
There's a lot of scent in the air, but this one reminds me more of decaying carrion. I had to step away for a bit.
We're at something you could probably call a market, some kind of place with durians.
But here, a man told us that we can squeeze in between the trucks, come up to the tree here because it's already bearing fruit.
At Auntie's, they haven't borne fruit yet.
Anyway, we asked her later, and she said that they only bear fruit around July and August.
And here I can already see tiny ones. Let me show you.
We have a unique opportunity because it smells wonderful here, and these little sprouts are slowly turning into flowers.
Here you can see the flowers. They're the ones that smell so lovely, and there are also flowers above me, and they're slowly changing as well.
Mr. Pan said it will take around a month.
Here you can see something small is slowly starting to grow from it.
Ah, so little flowers appear from this.
And in about a month, real fruits are supposed to appear on this little tree.
You see, this ripens earlier than what was on the farm, but there's quite a lot of it.
Here, I can even see a little bee already working on it.
You see, it grows naturally. Literally, someone planted this wonder right behind the trucks.
And there are even more of those trees over there. We can go take a look.
But I don't think it's sprouting yet. Oh wait, something is already coming up.
Here we have something small that has appeared.
Yes?
We're going to see the opening of a durian fruit.
Unintelligible.
My beloved's dad explains that this is a top-tier variety.
Durian is a fruit that evokes extreme emotions, from cult-like enthusiasm to strong aversion.
Because of its intense smell, it is banned in many public places, such as hotels, public transportation, and even elevators.
Despite this, the fruit is valued for its health benefits, including supporting the digestive system and boosting immunity.
In Malaysia, this fruit plays the role of both a culinary legend and a symbol of local culture.
Its intense, distinctive smell, which is the result of natural sulfur compounds, can surprise an unprepared foodie, but that's exactly what makes it so unique.
The inside of the durian hides a soft, creamy flesh with a pudding-like consistency, which for many is a culinary ecstasy.
As you can see, I have a durian fruit. I just picked it up with my fingers, but the gentleman here said that it's probably best to have gloves.
I have a feeling that the camera will also end up smelling in that distinctive way.
My fingers are cold too, but I'm already wearing a glove. I've never tried the fruit itself before, only the ice cream flavor.
I would compare the smell to someone having vomited.
That's just how I feel.
Some people say it smells like sweaty but already dried feet, so let's give it a try. I'll be honest, at first it makes you want to gag, but the taste itself is interesting. You can really taste the sulfur.
Very mixed feelings, because on one hand the taste is really nice, but the smell is really off-putting. But like I was just talking with my sister here, she says she really likes the smell. Maybe it's like once you combine the taste and the smell of a fruit like this, the smell starts to seem better to you. It doesn't put you off as much, right?
Well, I think it's something everyone should try at least once in their life. The variety I tasted was Blackthorn, which is known as D200 and comes from Penang in Malaysia.
It gained its reputation thanks to its rich, creamy, and custard-like texture, as well as its sweet taste with a delicate hint of bitterness.
The flesh is usually intensely yellow or orange, which makes it visually distinctive.
The name Blackthorn comes from the small black mark on the bottom of the fruit, which is a unique feature of this variety. Because of its limited availability and truly unique flavor, it is often priced much higher than other types of durian, even rivaling the famous Musang King.
They're cheaper during the season, but today, at the place where we were, the price was 30 ringgit per kilogram.
We came back from eating durians, we're back home, the air conditioning is on so we can manage somehow.
However, we need to reserve to book a place for tomorrow because we're going to Kuala Lumpur. First of all, we'd like to see the apartment that was purchased. It's under construction, walk around the showroom and so on. And in the morning I have physiotherapy, actually acupuncture for this shoulder, and we'll stay overnight there so that the next morning on Monday we can leave for Cameron Highlands. So we're in the process of looking for an apartment, and look what we found. I'm looking for an apartment on booking.com just for a one-night stay.
So as you can see, we found something here, and here, this is the apartment that we bought. It's called Aurum Residence.
So it's very likely that from inside, even if not from the apartment itself, then definitely from the pool, we'll be able to see how the construction of the whole complex is progressing. Because it's supposed to be finished only in 2027.
I just heard something. Maybe a storm is coming or something. We'll see. We'll see how it looks.
The apartment is amazing and the photos are beautiful.
The price is actually pretty okay because we're going with my parents again. So we have 2 bedrooms, 4 adults, 241 ringgit. That comes out to about 60 euros, so around 12 euros per person for one night. In, let's say, not the worst standards, right? So we'll see how it looks tomorrow.
But here the storm is really coming. It's thundering loudly behind us.
I don't think we'll have a view of our construction, but from the pool, something like that should be visible. So we'll see how it looks tomorrow. And I wasn't imagining it at all. There's a storm.
Although it usually rains here at night, on that day about 30 millimeters of rain fell in just half an hour.
For the first time since arriving in Malaysia, we're eating a homemade meal prepared by Mum. In the pot, there's a traditional dish from the Hakka culture. For those who don't know, this is one of the ethnic groups in China. It's not just food, but also a symbol of hospitality.
Anyway, this green strong brew made from green tea, sesame, peanuts, grains, and various herbs serves as a soup here, into which you can add any extra ingredients that are on the table.
It is believed that this dish has health benefits. It aids digestion, cleanses the body, and gives you energy.
And I can add from myself that although it's strange, it actually tastes really good.
Good morning from Malaysia, everyone. Another day is beginning. We've already been here for acupuncture. I paid 80 ringgit. However, well, I don't know. We didn't book another session because I have no idea if it will change anything.
Of course, to believe or not to believe after a few days or maybe a few weeks, if in any way my shoulder mobility changes, if it gets better, then we can say that something like this works.
I'm not particularly convinced about it myself.
It shouldn't do any harm, but I suppose this kind of therapy is better than the treatment I could get in Ireland, which would be paracetamol or something else, because if it still hurts after half a year, then painkillers aren't the best solution. And in Anglo-Saxon countries, that's usually how this kind of treatment goes.
I mean, of course, I'm kind of making fun of the topic because obviously there are different physiotherapies there, and there's also acupuncture, but acupuncture is more of a Chinese invention, right?
So is it worth it?
I believe we paid $110 previously, if I remember correctly. I'm certain I mentioned it to you before.
No, it's definitely 80. I have the receipt.
Is it worth it? We'll see.
If you ever want to try acupuncture, and yes, it was acupuncture, I was poked, I have pictures, yes, I was poked in several different places, and this time there were also these electric pads placed on me, which stimulated my muscles so they would contract, yes, or vibrate. The whole thing would start to vibrate, because it was this light tension that just kept stimulating.
You probably know what I mean. Plus, there was a heating lamp, and the whole thing lasted about 25 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. You can really relax. It doesn't hurt that much. As a diligent narrator, I have to interrupt the story again. After watching my review of the electric bike, you surely know that we've already returned to Ireland. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly encourage you to do so. The bike is simply amazing.
However, I'm not interrupting just to rave about how much fun I had on that bike. I must admit that since coming back, my persistent shoulder pain has completely disappeared.
I can now freely raise my right arm.
Since it was impossible for half a year, the question arises whether acupuncture is really that effective.
Although it may seem that way at first glance, in the context of a technology-focused channel where all tests and measurements are carried out precisely in conditions close to laboratory standards and then subjected to detailed analysis, making such a claim at the same time would be at least unjustified from the standpoint of methodological reliability.
Well, acupuncture is one thing, but while I was in Asia, my diet was different too.
It was rich, for example, in seafood, which I normally don't eat in Ireland.
Additionally, I finally got to warm up properly, which could have helped in some way as well.
In other words, although it seems that those two acupuncture treatments worked wonders, I can't give you 100% certainty that other external factors didn't play a role here.
Maybe everything contributed a little bit to the improvement.
If you've ever had the chance to try this type of Chinese medicine or alternative treatments yourself, be sure to let me know in the comments.
I'm really curious about your experiences, so what do you think?
And now that we're in Melaka, we have an hour and 40 minutes left to drive to Kuala Lumpur. We're heading to Kuala Lumpur.
First, we'll take a look at the construction site of the apartment or the housing estate that we bought and see how it's going.
On Google Maps, it's not updated very often, so we're going to see for ourselves if there's any progress.
Well, of course it should, but we bought the whole apartment while we were in Ireland, right? Without being here in person.
Our parents were actually here in person, but it's time for us to go ourselves, so let's hit the road. And off we went.
It's quite a long way. We're already approaching the toll highway. Over there, you can see someone has a built-in My RFID, so they just drive through, and here's the smart tag. But we have what's called a touch and go card, something like this, a bit worn out from my brother. You top it up from time to time and you can use it to pay for parking spots and for the highway. So we have to stay in this lane on this line. I think that one over there is touch and go for bigger vehicles, although I see something smaller going through as well.
Well, you just have to drive up here, swipe the card, and it'll be paid.
And complication. In the previous video, I showed you that my sister uses a special plastic handle, which makes it easy to tap on the highways.
Today we took my brother's car, and he's tall enough that he doesn't need any kind of extender.
In this case, there's no way, and you have to unbuckle your seatbelt first and then tap.
Later at a supermarket, I bought a set of 3 grabbers for about 2 zlotys.
It's more affordable than the inconvenience or expense of scratched rims. Here we're driving on the highway. You can see palm trees, which are oil palms, and of course, oil is extracted from them.
We occasionally pass by plantations like these. More are on the horizon. See the numerous palms there.
But what's funny, amusing, is that in English we call them palm trees, but botanically, a palm is not actually a tree.
And even though palms look like trees and serve pretty similar functions, they're actually not trees.
Just a fun fact. 113 kilometers.
We're pulling over for a stop here in a few dozen meters.
Let's see what the stops look like here. Well, we need to rest for a bit.
We don't have far to go. I think it's about half an hour. Yes, exactly.
Right here by the stop, there's some water flowing.
Over there, you can see more oil palms.
It looks completely civilized. Lots of shops, both small and large, and people are enjoying themselves.
Here, there's some good food. Here you can get some treats, more noodles. It smells wonderful.
And since we're driving on the highway, I haven't told you yet about these different tints.
Here in Malaysia, it's very popular. Basically, everyone, absolutely everyone, look, everyone has tinted windows.
It's just too bright and too hot here, and it's a special film, usually the 3M brand, that also reflects some of the heat, right?
Some cars have windows that are too tinted, especially the front one, because that's also tinted, as well as the side ones, and legally they can get in trouble for that. The police can get involved.
That's why you can see here that it's darker in the back, and it's also darker back there.
So definitely, absolutely every car. I haven't seen one yet that doesn't have tinted windows.
Everyone installs them, and some make them darker, much darker than they should.
Some keep it more reasonable. Another one passes, everything is tinted.
Especially in the back, it's darker, and every single car coming toward us too.
People here are already tired of the sun and heat, which is no surprise considering the year-round high temperatures.
It's just another normal day. 29 degrees feels like 36.
And it's basically like this all year round. We got off the main highway, but now we only have about 14 minutes left, 12 kilometers.
Now we have to drive up to the next toll booth to pay for this section as well.
I think it's about 1 ringgit 65, if I'm not mistaken, something like that.
Again, we use touch and go to pay with the card.
I mean, with a special card like that, the customs here are really surprising.
A moment ago, we slowed down a lot. You could say we were in a traffic jam, and I was wondering what was going on, you know?
But there was a car on the side of the road that was broken down.
It broke down on the road, not an accident. It happens, you know?
And my wife says that yes, everyone slows down just to write down the license plate number, and then with that license plate number they go to the lottery, or so-called lotto, and try to win, because they think that, I don't know, someone else's bad luck is their good fortune.
At least that's how I see it, because, well, she actually told me that if there's an accident, people stop, you know, just like everywhere, to look. Because people are curious, and curiosity always wins. But writing down the numbers and going the same day to try to win with that license plate number, maybe it'll bring them luck.
What do I think about it? I don't know. Write to me and tell me what you think about it.
Judging by the speed at which we're not moving, it's easy to say that we've already arrived in Kuala Lumpur. I really like it here. Look at this building that's covered with green vines. It adds such a cool, distinctive, almost post-apocalyptic vibe. Over there, you have a block with a passage between the buildings. Look how it looks. There's a nice little bridge. Here, look, there's a Malayan tiger. That's what it looks like. And there's some crazy hotel. Cool style, straight out of Arabia or something. Here on this side, there's a more modern building, and you can see more buildings being constructed. Over there are some old skyscrapers, pretty old skyscrapers, at least that's what they look like, and we only have about 7 minutes left to our destination. And that little bridge you see is the monorail.
And the apartment we chose is literally just a 3-minute walk from one of the stations, so it's really well connected and you can get anywhere using this train. It's really fast and quiet.
And regarding the Kuala Lumpur Twin Towers, we won't be going there this year, but we were there recently and we were in a pretty special place because not only were we on the bridge, but since my beloved cousin works there for a company called Petronas in a very high position, we were allowed to visit places that people normally aren't allowed to go.
So we took a few photos there and we ate at a restaurant on one of the floors, so maybe I'll add them here if I can find those photos.
Although the tallest building in Malaysia is Merdeka 118, an impressive skyscraper almost 679 meters tall, the Petronas Twin Towers are actually more famous and recognizable around the world.
These twin towers, measuring 452 meters, were the tallest buildings in the world for several years.
Yes, in the world, but their significance goes far beyond the numbers.
It's a symbol of modern Malaysia, national pride, and architectural craftsmanship that combines a futuristic form with Islamic motifs.
Built in 1998, the Petronas Towers are home to offices, art galleries, concert halls, and one of the most famous sky bridges in the world, the Sky Bridge.
Suspended at a height of 170 meters. This is where you get a breathtaking view of the city.
Today, even though Merdeka 118 has taken the title of the tallest, the Petronas Towers still remain an icon of Kuala Lumpur.
A place you have to see, experience, and definitely photograph.
Because it's not always the tallest things that stay in your memory the longest. The photos you're seeing were taken during the mask-wearing craze. Later that same day, we visited Batu Cave, and gosh, it's such a shame I wasn't vlogging back then.
On those colorful stairs behind me, there were swarms of monkeys, and the kind that can shamelessly snatch your glasses or backpack right out of your hands.
Seriously, tourists sometimes have to fight quite a battle with them for their belongings.
So if you'd like to keep watching my travels, please give a thumbs up, leave a comment, and also share the video with your friends.
Something like that would be a huge help. Unfortunately, with the reach being so low right now, there's a real concern that vlogs from my next trip simply might never be made.
Like a thoughtful comment and sharing the content really have a huge impact on the algorithms, which, as you can see, are currently very, very unfavorable to me.
Fortunately, you can change that. So I really appreciate your help, but now we're already a bit away from our new neighborhood.
The station for the monorail, for that whole train.
And you see, in just 400 meters, we'll be at home. And I think that's probably what's being built here.
From what we saw last time, it was much lower. But over there, something is being built.
Here we're already turning right onto this construction site, but you can see that they've built a little roof here, a shelter from the sun so you can hide.
We're not really sure where we can get in.
Ah, there's a bit of space under the car park.
And here's another classic here. Not a rust bucket yet, but still running.
At least it looks like it. As you can see, construction is going on here. There will be a total of 8 levels or 8 floors for parking, which isn't underground, but above ground. 8 in total.
Yes, I know what you mean.
However, the apartment we chose is on the 34th floor, but the 34th floor is counted from that parking lot.
So in total, it comes out to the 42nd floor and above.
The thing is, when it comes to prices, we'll have time to talk about prices later. But for each level, for each floor, you pay an extra 1,000 ringgit, so the higher you want to go, the more you have to pay.
Well, whether everyone likes it or not, that's uncertain, but people agree to it, and generally people prefer to be higher up rather than lower, but that's a matter of taste, right?
So these houses that are being built here, the point is that they're considered low density, meaning there's not a lot of crowding. That just means there aren't that many apartments on each floor, and there are many elevators. So even though I think on our floor, if I'm not mistaken, there are only 4 apartments, we have, I believe, 3 elevators available.
So when it comes to waiting or anything like that, it shouldn't be as annoying compared to apartments built in the usual style, where the more you pack in, the cheaper it gets.
These apartments are expensive, but they're nice, and the whole patio, the pool, everything there is beautiful, but we'll see more of that in the showroom.
My dears, it feels like 40 degrees. It's scorching, really scorching, but we're going to walk around and see something.
And we also have a meeting with the agent today at 3 o'clock, and it's only 1 o'clock now.
So maybe we'll walk around. Maybe we'll eat something because we haven't had breakfast yet, and it would be good to eat something soon. I see some people coming out. The general construction isn't going on yet, but something is always happening.
Dear travelers, this episode is getting a bit long, so it's time to take a break here so you can catch your breath before the next exciting material.
In the next 6th part of the series, I'm moving to Asia, we'll meet with an agent, we'll see what our new apartment will look like, but there will also be a total twist because the agent will show us around apartments from a new, still planned housing project that regular viewers haven't had access to yet.
Remember to frequently check www.techmaniakhd.pl for the latest episode.